Welcome, everyone, to the second Live with CXPA broadcast of the week. I am really excited to continue the great conversations that we had yesterday, to continue to have a great conversation today, and to continue to bring you great content that helps offer some perspective on how global CX leaders have overcome business challenges and led customer-focused transformation in their organizations. So I'm Gabe Smith, CCXP, content manager for the Customer Experience Professionals Association. And today's conversation is really, I think, going to be a fascinating one. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a long time. We know that the term digital transformation has a lot of buzz. We're seeing it all over, and it's gained even more traction as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. But what does it really mean in practice? And how did a customer experience leader and her team really make it happen to drive that customer-focused digital transformation in their organization? So I want to hear from you before we kick things off, before we get started. You know I always like to hear where you're tuning in from. So give us a shout in the comments. Let us know who you are, where you're watching from. I know I'm going to see some familiar faces. Hope I get to see some new ones too. So let us know where you are. So before we bring on our guest for today's program and sort of dive into that digital transformation conversation, I want to welcome a familiar face to today's program, and that is Greg Melia, CAE, the CEO of the Customer Experience Professionals Association. Welcome, Greg. Great to have you on here as always.
Hi, Gabe. Great to be here. And you are right. What an amazing week. You know, in addition to these two LinkedIn Lives, we had a fabulous webinar by Concentrix and a fabulous webinar by CallMiner. So we're just excited about how much conversation we're able to share with the community and how much opportunity we have to collaborate and partner with other people to advance CX.
Yeah, I want us to ask you a question about, the value of collaborative partnerships. And before I do that, just taking a look at the comments section, just such a great representation of the global diversity of, customer experience professionals and enthusiasts that are out there. We have Barbados tuning in. We have Iran tuning in. Welcome. We have Toronto. Welcome. We have India, Brazil, just going down the line here. We have Anna is tuning in from Poland. So great to see you all here, and really welcome to this broadcast. And Greg, you mentioned collaboration, and I know today's guest and the story that we're about to hear. I think we're going to hear a lot more about that. But tell me, from your perspective as the CEO of this global association, what is the value of these collaborative partnerships in really driving the importance of CX globally and accelerating organizations' ability to perform these CX transformations?
Yeah, it makes me think of a quote from Jim Collins, the famous business guru. And a few years ago, Jim Collins was asked about the future of management. And Jim Collins said that the future of management is being able to influence individuals to follow and accomplish what you're hoping to achieve, rather than the top-down bureaucracy of the past, where you would tell people what to do or to directly control them. He said that the future of management is about managing networks, about collaborating with people that you don't directly control to be able to do the greater good. We can think about that through the traditional analogy of the rank and file control of taxi systems, where you had to call a dispatcher and then somebody would send a cab to go pick you up, versus the new digital transformation to Uber, where you have a network where somebody can raise their hand and say, I'm willing to drive, and somebody else can raise their hand and say, I'm willing to be a rider. I need a ride. And the technology can collaborate and connect them together to make that happen. CXPA would not be possible were it not for the many volunteers and members and partners that help us bring the framework of CX and the passion for CX to local communities throughout the world. And so we value being able to partner with our local network leaders. We're very excited about what's happening throughout the world, but also specifically related to today's program, what's happening in the Asia Pacific region. We are also really thrilled that we're partnering with groups like Next Generation CX Summit, which is not only convening a summit in Asia Pacific, but it's bringing those stories of Asia Pacific CX together for the benefit of the Asia Pacific CX market as well as the larger world. And lastly, thinking about Sandra and Sandra joining us in a few minutes, we are so thankful to CXPA's recognized training providers. These are companies that are committed to using CXPA's CX framework to teach and to advance CX. And they've been vetted through a process so that companies that are looking to hire somebody for an internal training or that are looking to bring somebody in to help their staff get prepared to earn the CCXP, these are individuals that have accurate information, have skills and experience, and can be a trusted guide.
Yeah, absolutely, Greg. I mean, we're in such a crowded CX landscape, from content to training, that I think, the power of people like Sandra working in their organizations and becoming these recognized training providers. It's a third-party independent body that's saying, this curriculum is aligned with a professional framework that is itself, strengthened by third-party consensus.
Absolutely. There's a vibrant discussion on LinkedIn the other day about the explosion of different organizations that are advancing schools of thought in CX or are holding up training programs as if they were professional certifications. And one of the questions that was asked there, what is CXPA doing to create a global standard and a global consensus? And it all begins with the job analysis survey that we did, where we went out and we had about a 20-minute survey that people filled out about the tasks they do on a daily basis to advance CX. And we heard from respondents from every continent. Well, I shouldn't say every continent. We probably didn't hear from Antarctica. But, we heard from CX professionals across the globe. And we were able to take that information and convene a blue ribbon panel of experts to say, what does this mean and how do we translate this? And that process continues. So we have a group right now that is working on developing a book of knowledge, a CXPA book of knowledge based on that same framework. So there's a lot of opportunity in coming forward. But what's important, it's not about what Gabe thinks or about what Greg thinks or about what Sandra thinks. It's about what Gabe and Greg and Sandra and the CXPA community can agree as common ground. That is a solid foundation that we can pick up and drive forward. So through the experiences of many, we can benefit the CX profession.
Absolutely. Greg, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on what strong partners can really do and help us accomplish together as a community. And, with that, I'll say farewell to you for now. I know we'll see you back on this broadcast soon. And take care.
Thanks, Gabe. Thanks everyone tuning in.
All right. So thank you, Greg. I'm pleased to welcome our guest to today's program, who I see in the comments is already getting some great accolades from viewers. So we'll definitely share more about her story. And so I'd like to welcome Sandra DeZoisa, CCXP. Sandra is the Group Chief Customer Officer at Dialogue Axiata PLC in Sri Lanka. Sandra has over 3 decades of experience and expertise within the mobile and telecommunications industry. And in addition to being a CCXP, she's a keynote speaker, she's a lecturer, she's a past winner of CXPA's Impact Award, and as Greg had mentioned, she'll be speaking next week at the Next Gen Customer Experience Virtual Summit, bringing together CX leaders from across Asia. Welcome to the program, Sandra.
Thank you. Thanks, Gabe. I'm excited to be here. This is a great opportunity for me to catch up with like-minded people from across the world. Now that we can't actually physically, go meet up at the
Right.
various different gatherings and conferences that I so look forward to, throughout the year. That's my travel opportunity. So I
Right.
literally travel every month of the year. It's my travel, shopping, catch up, and it just means so much to me to do that. And I'm really missing all that in the last 1 year or so. So
I
this is a
am.
great opportunity. I love what you guys are doing
Thank
for
you,
us.
Sandra. Yeah, and I so agree with you. I truly can't wait till we can connect in person again and all get to know each other. But in the meantime, we have this great platform to have this conversation. So, we have a global audience joining us today, as you saw. We have people from around the world who are tuning in. So, to get us started, would love to for you to share a little bit more about the work that Dialogue Axiata does. What are its products and services? What areas are served? You give us a little bit of background about your organization.
Sure. So Dialogue Axiata is a part of Axiata. We're headquartered in Malaysia. And Dialogue is one out of about 7 operating companies in this region. So we are a regional telco, and more so a digital telco. In the recent times, we've put together a digital transformation program that's taken us about 3-4 years now, or 5 years, I'd say, and come to this place where we are in digital everything. So we're predominantly a mobile operator that started off as a mobile operator. This is a very special year for us because we're 25 years old in Sri Lanka. But alongside being a mobile operator, we went into fixed line, we went into broadband, we went into TV. We also have a lot of other e-commerce businesses, as well as entertainment, education, lots of business lines that are centered around our customers' digital lifestyle. So when we started off 25 years ago, the marketplace in Sri Lanka was already crowded. We had about 3 other players, and we were the 4th entrant, and obviously the underdog. So we promised to bring in the future today to the Sri Lankan citizens. And what that meant was that we will promise to bring, along with the GSM technology that we then brought, because all the other operators were in analog businesses. So we said we promise to bring you the future today, and we will keep to this promise. So 25 years later, we've actually been able to keep to this promise, kept on innovating and expanding, and kind of hand-holding our customers into a digital lifestyle. So that's what we wanted to do. And also that's part of my customer experience vision as well, to help the Sri Lankans, move in seamlessly, and facilitate their everyday life, work, and everything. And in the pandemic, I think this is a perfect example of how we have facilitated as a telecom player, to be able to make sure that the Sri Lankan citizens, the majority actually, are with Dialogue. We've been market leaders for over 20 years. Mm-hmm. So although we started off as the 4th entrant and there was a 5th operator as well, we managed to stay ahead of the game and be market leaders, for over 20 years. In the last couple of years, including right now, we're the most valued brand in Sri Lanka, most loved brand. The last announcement was about a week ago, when we actually managed to get ahead of all the banks. There are like 6 banks in Sri Lanka who are on the top 10 list of most valued consumer brands. We managed to beat all these 6 banks and get on top. So we have a AAA rating. So we're one of the, we're privileged that our customers love us so much, and want to keep us ahead like this in the game.
Yeah, so I want to dive into how you've, managed to deliver such amazing outcomes. So, and one of the things I thought was really fascinating as I looked at your LinkedIn profile is that you've been with a company for pretty much this entire journey. So, walk me through sort of your evolution from sort of when you started in the company, and how has your role grown and changed as the company has evolved to become more customer centric and deliver this digital transformation?
So, Gabe, I'm just going to go beyond dialogue because this is interesting. I joined the mobile telephone, business or the industry with the first operator that came into Sri Lanka, and that was about 3 decades ago. In fact, it was a Comvic Millicom joint venture company, US Sweden based company. So I worked with that company for the first 3.5 years. And then moved to a Singtel company in Sri Lanka, which was the second operator to have started off a mobile telephony business here. And then I worked with them for 5.5 years and then moved to Dialog. So my career in service has been my entire career. I haven't been really doing anything else because I span a career of, over 3 decades just in what's known as customer service back then. And there, of course, thereafter, wherein we've sort of evolved into digital customer experience and so on. So I've actually spent my entire lifetime, I would say, or career doing what I know, what I love, what I love doing best, which is serving customers. And of course, when, having made those 2 moves and when I came into Dialog, I knew that Dialog was the place for me. And that's why I've spent like some this is my 24th year with Dialog. And, surprisingly or not, most of my colleagues at the C-level, like our CTO and so many others that I can think of, have also spent an equal amount of time. So, in fact, our CEO, we've just had only 2 CEOs, one CEO for like nearly 20 years. And he started off the company. He was a technical director, quickly moved on to being CEO and spent 20 years being CEO, groomed up another CEO who was actually one of my colleagues. So that guy spent 20 odd years as well in the company and then took up, the helm of Dialog. So I think the thing is we've all got the same DNA in us. We've all got the same vision, the same passion. We are so close. We are a family. In fact, we have a term that we've coined called API Dialogue, which is API means in our native language, we. So it's like we are Dialog. We are one family. So this whole cohesive teamwork and the spirit of family is like super important to us. That's part of our DNA.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what makes it great, that we can all work together. We all have our backs. We understand each other. We know naturally, after having worked for over 2 decades, how to do things, right? In fact, my own management team, a majority of them started off from being a frontline associate at either a store or the call center. And today they're at like GM levels and so on. So they've risen up the ranks in CX over the last, 15 years or 2 decades.
That's really fascinating. What I love about customer experience is that many people have come into this discipline from a variety of different roles in their organization. Some have come in through marketing, others through, customer service, others through research and insights. But, the folks who come in through customer service or who started in either a frontline role or, contact center management role, you never forget that you're always sort of have that empathy. You never forget that empathy that you had for the customer, and you never forget the pain points and the impacts of customer pain on both customers and employees. And so I think that's such a valuable experience to have and to bring into a customer experience role where you're focused on multiple touch points.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Yes, definitely so. So because of the fact that we've been there, done that, we're always thinking of our employees and our customers because we've been there, right?
Yeah.
We've done the whole hog of getting there. So for us, it's like kind of very natural to think of both ends. In fact, when we look at all our matrices, our KPIs and our everything, equivalent to the customer KPIs, we also have, employee KPIs. So just like we have customer NPS, we have employee NPS, we have customer VOC, we have employee VOC, we have customer effort score, we have employee effort score. Everything kind of goes hand in hand because to us, internal customers and external customers are just 2 sides of the same coin. And how we manage our employees' experience will define how they serve our customers to give our customers a great experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I want to dive in. I know, excuse me, the topic of our broadcast today is digital transformation. But I also know and want to get your perspective. Several years ago, Dialogue made a really concerted effort to go all in on building a customer-centric culture. So tell me about that effort, because when I saw that, I thought, gosh, I bet that helped lay the groundwork for some of the work that they're doing today.
Yes. So actually, this my boss then, Dr. Hans Vijay Surya, as I told you, over my career, over the last 20 years, the roles have changed. I'm still in customer experience or customer service back then. But what I did when I started off 24 years ago to where I am, what I do and what we do today has just evolved, into such a fantastic place that today, in fact, we lead a lot of the practices across the company. So when we started out on our digital transformation program, I think it was about 5 years ago, we didn't have a chief digital officer. Typically, a lot of companies recruit a CDO who is typically an IT or a tech background person. But, Dr. Hans was saying, what we need to get this going is not a CDO with technical background, because we have a lot of technical people who are sound, who are great in what they do. But if we want to really succeed, it's not about the technology we put in. We can buy technology, we can implement technology. We are a tech company, and that's what we do best. That is not a challenge. The challenge is taking along the entire company and all of our employees along on this journey towards transforming. And there, it's more about cultural transformation than technology transformation, because technology transformation is really quite simple, as it were, compared to trying to transform a whole company, a whole organization's employees. So with that in mind, he said, since you are the customer person amongst all of us, and since you are the relationship person, you got to be the one that kind of glues this whole thing together, act as a catalyst to bring everything together. The tech stuff, don't worry about. Your CTO, your CIO, and everyone else will help you, but you got to draw this program together. And so he appointed me as head of this digital transformation program, and I was worried. I didn't think I can do it. But then I had no choice. I had to jump in and, start off. And I'm so glad I did, because 3-4 years later, I realized that it's really worked in our favor. It's really worked because technology was never really our challenge. It was about getting people to believe in this change and that it was necessary and that they should come along and support. Because one of the greatest fears about digital transformation or a program of transformation is that employees resist because they think they're going to lose their jobs. So the first thing I wanted to do was to give our employees the assurance that we're going to take them along on this journey while we all upskill ourselves to get into the digital world. We were committing and promising to take them along, teach them, and to make sure they learn new skills, new ways of working, and assure them that they were going to get the tools required to perform a very different job in the future, but one that is good for them, will add value, and they'll enjoy better than what they were doing currently. So It was more about culture transformation, really.
Yeah. And that's so fascinating to me.
Sorry. Yeah. So I set off on a program that was themed Service from My Heart. It's called SFH for short. So the theme for our culture transformation program and service culture transformation together with that was called SFH, Service from My Heart. So we have, a program that now has, reached some level of maturity after some 5-6 years, which is all to do with something called, your passion, as in, it's my passion, and your smile. And your smile means the customers. So if I bring my whole self to work, if I'm passionate about what I do, and if I do my work sincerely, passionately, and genuinely, that I will always be able to put a smile on a customer's face, and that's the challenge. So we wanted to build a culture of positivism. We wanted some of the other themes that we had was say yes. So we had something called Yes We Can, a program that was about getting our internal customers to say yes to the frontline customers or the associates and the frontline staff employees, so that they can in turn say yes to our customers and never have to really say no and refuse customers. If they were to refuse customers, they need to be giving an alternate solution to our customers. So that was like a thing of commitment, saying you're not going to make customers unhappy because of a process or a policy or something. You need to find a way to work around it. Another one of those was like for the internal program, there was another initiative called Kill the Rule, right? So Kill the Rule was about all employees coming together, which we still have going, by the way, where they can write about almost any rule, any policy, anything that they feel is deterring them to give good customer service or serve our customers well. So if there were any policies, processes, anything that was getting in the way, those were, sort of taken up by management, and then looked at how these things can be changed in a way that we remove all the barriers to giving good service to our customers. So one such initiative, in fact, was a sort of an empowerment program across the whole company called the Fund Bucket, FUND, or otherwise a fun bucket. So we wanted it to be fun for our employees to use funds that we put in there in order to be empowered to do something for a customer, like give him a waiver, do whatever it is that they wanted to. Like if they have a customer walking into one of our service centers and it happens to be his birthday, we will quickly buy him a birthday cake, or wrap up a gift or something, and then celebrate and sing happy birthday and all that with everyone. So it's like a surprise thing. So all these fun things used to happen using the money we put in for employees in the fun bucket.
That's so great. And I want to come back to this idea of that you were empowered as a person who is not a subject matter expert in digital to lead this digital transformation. And I think your leadership really astutely recognized that this is a task for someone with change management abilities and skills, and that I think just hearing this story, it seems that the message must have landed differently coming from you than coming from someone who may have had that more technical background that could have been intimidating, or sort of perpetuated that fear that I'm going to lose my job because of this. That's great.
Yeah,
So
and because of
I guess let me follow that up with a quick question. Was this just sort of innately your leader's vision, or was this something where you all had to sort of show the merits of sort of this approach compared to this other approach?
So I think it's a bit of both. It's just that it's strange how my CEO, who's a PhD in mobile telephony, is such a techie, right? And the technical director who put up the network across the whole country. But the fact is that he is a very practical and a very caring person. So in fact, we have strange things going on in office, like we have a whole bunch of cats walking around the office because he's a lover of cats and dogs. We have about 5 strays that we feed them and look after them. They have little dialogue tags on them and so on. So they're official, part of the dialogue family. And so it's also this, I think it's the whole DNA of a leader who's a caring human being, although he's a techie, a very, very techie person. So that kind of gives him he always looks at things that way. Because he says there's a practical side, a human side, and then of course there's business and technology and everything else, and that you need to be viewing both when you're taking a sound decision. So he's tried to sort of inculcate that in all of us. So I think maybe it's stemming from that. In fact, the very reason, that I was appointed to the C-suite in customer experience as the group chief customer officer way back in 2008, right? And I'm pretty sure that I am the first in the APAC region who was appointed to the C-suite in customer experience in this region. I'm pretty sure I am, because that was so long ago, and it was almost soon after that famous book, Chief Customer Officer, came out. I read the book, and then I gave it to my boss, and then so he said, "I know you're hinting what you're hinting at," and then he said, "Why?" And he said, "Why not?" And then he said, "Can you do your new job description for me?" And then, of course, the version I gave him was quite different to the version he gave back to me, because it was a lot more strategy and a lot more collaboration, a lot more influencing across the company and all of that, as opposed to the far more narrower view I had of the role itself. So the having the vision and the ability to see this through, and give me the encouragement as well as everything else I needed, from the budgets to empowering me to also try out anything I wanted. I'd say, I want to do this, I want to try that, and of course for the most part I succeed. But whenever I didn't succeed with any of those initiatives, it was okay. There was no big noise about it. Everyone's allowed to be creative, innovative, and do their thing. And if you fail, you quickly move on. There's no worries about failing. It's all right.
That's phenomenal, Sandra. And, I think one of the things that I find really valuable on the case study conversations like this that we're having is the fact that, we can dive in and ask a lot of questions. So I want to encourage our audience members, ask questions, and we'll see what we can get to during the remaining time. So I think that's one of the really valuable pieces of this conversation. So Sandra, I want to ask, so you have this service from the heart, culture transformation. You were sort of leading the change management efforts to drive this digital transformation and the work that's being done. And then, early 2020 happens, we enter into a global pandemic. How did the Dialogue team build on the work that had already been done to respond to customer needs that, changed just like that?
So Dialogue is in almost 1 in every 3 households in the country. That's the kind of penetration we have in the country. And it's a responsibility, it's an obligation, it's almost a national responsibility, because the government looked to us to do such a lot of things like contact tracing and all of that, right? So we played a big part. In fact, when the government wanted to set up a sort of a call center facility in order to support the citizens, they called upon us. And we actually had a huge team of doctors working from our center, running a national, health contact center as well. For us, it's an obligation, a responsibility for the country and for the citizens of the country. So that being the case, we were prepared, we were ready, because we were into this digital maturity, into this digital transformation program that was quite mature by, when 2020 happened. All we had to do was to get hold of more laptops where, we were working off desktops, and pack everyone to their homes to make sure that the staff, the employees, can work comfortably from home. So, in fact, in over a year, a majority of the employees have been working from home, and productivity was through the roof, because I don't know, somehow people are happier working from home. They're doing more work. They're doing great work and staying safe. They also love the fact that the company is so supportive, and being there. Even in fact, right now, we have a lockdown. We're in lockdown right now, and we have some employees who are staying home, but being found to be positive. And we have facilities that are private facilities that are supported by our company, that the employees and even their families are sent to. We do initiatives like actually delivering groceries to the employees who are in lockdown in their homes. So we really, really go out of our way to sort of look after employees. And I know because of that, they really appreciate all that. So they also do the best they possibly can. With that, we've been able to support our customers to doing whatever that was needed. At first, it was hugely challenging. We struggled in the first 2 months. We were setting up mobile services. We were actually, when we were actually in curfew and lockdown, we had mobile services where our employees would go and do some deliveries of SIM cards and take in bill payments and do all kinds of mobile service stuff. But then we also had mobile service trucks, which we had tried out, some years back. So that whole thing came in handy, and we packed up and said, okay, if they can't come to us, we're going to go to them, right? Apart from which, almost intuitively, like 2 months before the pandemic hit, I was up in arms with my team saying, no, I really, really need you to do WhatsApp as a channel. I need it right now, and I just don't want to spend any more time hovering around this. And they just jumped in and got that going. And oh my gosh, when it all happened, customers were more than happy to jump in on the WhatsApp channel, because the voice, contacts were like double, triple the volumes. But then we've kind of made that shift and arranged for so many other social and digital channels. We had decided years back that our dialogue app was going to be the primary, self-serve digital channel. You wouldn't believe it, Gabe, but across all of our products and services portfolio, we have 350 services on just our app. So there's and so there's almost, unless there's a need for a physical interaction, like say you have to get your phone repaired, or you need to get a SIM card where it's a physical interaction, almost everything else can be done on the app. And for me, because the app was, pioneered by our customer experience team, and we own that product, we made sure that we make it good and pleasant and easy enough for our customers to use it. Because if we don't, then we're going to continue to get more telephone calls, which is very challenging. If we want our customers to adopt digital, then we need to make sure that the journeys are pleasant, easy, simple, fast, and quick, and gets their job done efficiently. And if not, they're not going to make that change, right? So it is in our interest to do it. And so, we were on this journey, and it was good for us because we had sort of almost prepared ahead. And it worked out well for us.
Wow, that's such a great example of sort of the power of foresight and planning, and how, though I'm sure, you all were working very hard to respond, in that moment to increase, digital adoption among your customer base. So much of the groundwork, as you said, had already been laid. So that's really fantastic. So let's spend a little bit more time on challenges. What do you think has been the biggest challenge for your organization over the last year, and how did you overcome it?
Okay, so one of the biggest challenges right now that we have is that, so it's kind of good news and bad news, is that volumes, the traffic, has more than doubled. Now, for a business, it's absolutely fantastic news. But for us, the challenge is, how do we ensure that we manage to serve our customers in a way that we can handle the volumes, and still maintain the quality of connectivity in terms of voice and data without any latency, in order to be able to give our customers the kind of quality of service, QoS parameters that we measure, and that we keep to it. So you can imagine being a telco, when we've sort of dimensioned your network in a certain way, depending on the traffic patterns for years and years. So for instance, if you have like the business district, you know how it is during the daytime, all capacities on the business districts. And then towards the evening, everyone works and goes away to the suburbs and goes back to their homes. Then there's a different kind of, dimensioning that you require to do. And then all of a sudden, when COVID hit, all of that goes off to the suburbs. And here we have the top business districts that are fully capable of handling, so much volume, so much traffic, and zero usage almost, right? So really sort of dimensioning to quickly change that network to be able to cater to when the customers are moving, working from home versus working from office, going to school versus not going to school, and all of that is quite challenging, and we are working through that. But we have an amazing, how do I say, a shareholder that gives us all this money. So we're actually spending about 2.5 times more money than we earned last year to quickly, upgrade everything to make sure that we can cater to the demand and keep our quality of service high, and make our customers happy.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. And I think, what a fascinating problem to try to solve. And it sounds like you all are spending a lot of resources to solve that. So we have a couple questions here, Sandra. One is around if you could speak to your pre-sale service plan.
See, in terms of pre-sale, what we've actually done is to make sure we organize all of what we do for our customers, their experiences, as journeys. So we call it, like, for instance, we have different journeys, like when you start off the pre-sales journey, and then we have the onboarding experience, and then we have the billing experience, and then we have the sort of the complaint resolution, troubleshoot kind of experience, and so on, right? So on the pre-sales plan as well, what we've done is we're making available all of the information through DR. DR is our bot, our chat bot. That helps to be able to, you can pick up whatever information you want, all the way up to saying, yes, you're interested, and, have someone contact me to process the sale. Similarly, on our app as well. And so what we've done is really, particularly in these times when people movement is restricted, we have ensured that we've moved all of that to digital and social channels, so that customers can quickly view and understand. If they have clarifications, they can quickly, chat with our chatbot or chat with an associate, and get the information they want, to try and kind of be able for us to move from a pre-sale to the sales phase pretty quickly, and then to look at if we can move that to an onboarding phase pretty quickly, so that we don't really leave it to chance, as it were. And so we look at all of the information, all of the visitors, all of the queries. What are the queries that we can't really resolve through our bot or at first level, and how can we look at, say, for instance, it was a TV connection. How quickly can we do the installation? Because anyone who decides they want to have an extra, TV connection to keep their kids busy, or their mom, or, someone, because now everyone's at home and each one needs their own different connection, right? Because they're all watching different TV programs. So how can we get it done really super fast, easy, and quickly? Like, is there filling up of applications and so on, right? So what we do is we don't even do that. If we know they want it, we make sure the next step is that someone calls them, and they will visit, they will install it, and then they will get the application filled and get a signature and collect the cash at the doorstep. So that's what we try to do, and we're trying to do a quick turnaround time in these times for data connections, Wi-Fi connections, all of the stuff that customers are actually looking to use almost immediately in order to be able to enhance their, day-to-day challenges, right? Working from home, studying from home, all the stuff that they want to do from home.
Yeah, absolutely. Streaming live broadcasts from home, absolutely. Another question that came in, Resi asked, what is your strategy to keep the internal engagement on the same level during this pandemic? So I think you explained how well everyone adapted, because of some of the cultural and change management work that you had done. You laid that groundwork. as the year went on, and as the pandemic continues to go on in many places in the world, how have you kept that internal engagement high?
Right. So thank you very much, Resi, for that question. It's one that I hold very close to my heart. As I told you already, internal customers, it's like, super important for me. And I'm always thinking about how is it for my employees? How is it for my team associates, my members in the team? How are they managing and so on? So Service from the Heart is the program, SFH. And in the Service from the Heart program, we have so many different things going on right now. We have different types of engagement. One type of engagement is about um, acknowledging the difficulties and the challenges and people talking about it. Another part of the initiative is like how we recognize people who go the extra mile. We actually have these little posters that we send out every day, so that everybody in the Dialogue family gets to see what people are doing, going the extra mile, or what their challenges are. And so it's like a kind of a R&R mechanism. We also have a lot of digital badges that are available. So if an internal customer serves another customer really well, they can send out an internal badge. For instance, on Mother's Day, we had a lot of digital badges that were made available through the SFH program that everyone can use. And I think we had something like, I think about some 3,000 odd used during just that one day, because there was so much appreciation for the female, employees within Dialogue. And they have said you're like super mom, super worker, and all kinds of, it's the ladies that can juggle everything, and you all are the superheroes, and all kinds of beautiful badges. We also have like fun things. Every day we throw out like, let's say, a challenge for anyone who has the appetite to take time off and do it. And then we will announce a winner. Then we have things like yoga and dancing and cook-offs and singing competitions, in which we encourage the employees as well as the family, those in the family, to take part. So we have singing competitions and dancing competitions between moms and daughters, cook-offs that moms and daughters and other people get into. We encourage all our employees to make sure that they do not have meetings during the lunchtime, as well as knock off at like 5 o'clock, and we don't encourage meetings anymore. We also ensure that, if our employees who males and females alike, if they are sort of tied up with the online lessons of their kids and stuff like that, then it doesn't matter, because they can work other hours. So we have flexi hours depending on your work schedule and your home schedule, so that we take away the stress and the anxiety that this pandemic has brought upon, the employees that work with us. So we're kind of working through understanding every single difficulty that they face, and to try to look for solutions for those, and to keep the engagement super, super high. So in fact, when there was no pandemic, somewhere in December, when things were a little, not no pandemic, when things were very settled, we actually had people, the managers, go to each one's house. So there were hundreds of people who were visited for the first time, ever.
Wow.
The managers visited their houses and gave them some tiny, not too much, some little plaque-like things with their faces on it, and saying thank you for being such a wonderful, yes, we can comrade or champion. So, we just find ways in which we can keep the SFH spirit and the enthusiasm, the energy, the motivation going. I also ensure that every single time I have any meeting, that I don't just jump into the meeting. First, I want a conversation. So the first few minutes are spent chatting, laughing, joking, almost anything. In fact, I kind of log in and I just don't talk. I wait, because I kind of listen to this huge buzz conversation going on between all of them. And then when someone will realize that I've been logged in, they'll say, Sandra's here. So I said, yeah, carry on, please. I'm enjoying the conversations. And, I try to create conversations and try to sort of laugh and joke about something. Then I feel like if they put the camera on, I'm saying, oh, you've got a new hairdo on, or, how come, tell us, it looks like you've lost weight, man. Can you tell me how you're doing this? Right? Tell us, share the, secret of your success and stuff like that, and just have casual conversations. So once that kind of thing is done, it's like everyone feels a bit better. And then we have our, business conversations. And then at the end of it also, I always try to make sure I say, like, you are doing such a fantastic job. Take care and stay safe. Make sure your families are stay safe. And, it's important to know that you come first, your family comes next, and then comes work, in
Right.
that order, not in any other order. Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And it's important to know that if you are unable to, because you've been, identified as being positive or asymptomatic or something, or someone in your family, somebody else can always take on for you and do your bit of work. It's not life and death. There's somebody who
Absolutely.
can always jump in there and do that for you. And what you do for others, they do back for you, right? So that's the thing about having a service DNA, a service mindset. It's all about serving other people. It's all about what you can do for others, and knowing that what you do for others, you will receive tenfold if you do good, right?
Yeah.
And it's that principle of making sure you're always thinking of someone else, walking in someone else's shoes, and that you can always eat your dog food. So I always tell everyone, encourage them to go and try all the channels, go and take a call, see how it's answered, see how hard it might be to get in through the IVR to the information you want. So in our whole journey mapping, journey orchestration, customer journey management is like the big thing for me now. It's like my focal point right now, to make sure that we are shortening them, making them frictionless, making them easy, and putting in a lot of effort and money behind it as well, to look at how we can really improve the customer journey part, so that if ever I in fact find that something is too much of a bother, if I have to go to my app and find something and it's like more than 2 clicks or 3 clicks, I'm like, I'm exhausted. And I say, okay, it's really horrible, I won't do it, so don't expect your customers to do it.
Yeah.
Right? So it's always about benchmarking, a good experience that we all having somewhere else, saying, why can't we be like that? That was like so much better than our own. So let's go and try to figure out how we can change it to make it better.
Yeah, and you've done such an amazing job throughout this program in painting such a compelling picture of the customer focused and employee focused culture that you and your team at Dialogue have built. And one sort of example of that I meant to mention earlier, you actually have your phone number on the website, like your personal phone number. So
Yes.
as does some other members of your leadership team, right? So
Yes.
I'm really curious whose idea that was, and
Mine.
what that's like. How many calls do you get? And if anybody's watching and thinking, gosh, should I do that? Tell me more about this, Sandra.
So this is something we didn't start just now. I think we've had it for, I don't know, maybe 5 years, 7 years. I don't remember anymore. But what I've done is, at first it was only me and my team. My number was always out there. And then I realized that it's unfair, because when we said customer service is everybody's job and not just the frontliners, we kind of changed that mindset and said everybody else has to jump in the front line, right? So we actually have our CEO's number out there, in not his mobile, but it's a different connection, but they can get through to him through that. And yes, mine's there as well. And so many of the other C levels, like the CMO and so many others, as well as the second level corporate management team. So I think if you go there, you will find email addresses and phone numbers of about 15, 20 people in corporate management, senior management, right?
Wow.
And the thing about it is that my CEO is very passionate also. In fact, you wouldn't believe it. Way back when he first joined as a young man in his first or second job, back then when I wanted to get COPC certification for my contact center, if you're familiar with Customer Operations Performance Center, right? This is way back some 20 years ago. We didn't even have anyone to go and do this. And my current CEO, he was then in corporate planning. And he wanted to make sure from, that we get into certification frameworks and all of that through customer experience, and have some science behind the art, and to sort of streamline processes and so on, right? So his passion back then was about processes and certifications and frameworks. And so I had to tell him, like, I said, no, we don't have anyone to go and do the exams. you'll have to do that for us, because back then it was very challenging for us to actually do that 20 years ago. So he is our first, certified COPC certified resource, that because you had to have one of those, right, to start on this journey. And so he was our first. So, fast forward 20 years later, you can imagine, right? Today, being the CEO, he can drill down to all 200 odd matrices on that customer experience, a table F, if you know. So he can go and look at everyone, understand every single one. So he has more questions than anyone else in the company, because he understands everything in great detail. So that kind of culture has really helped to keep everything going in a way that we keep our feet on the ground, and that we can relate to a customer all the time and know that no matter what we do, there's a customer at the end of it. It doesn't matter which role you play, whether you're the CEO or, no matter where you go, you still have a customer who's your boss, right?
Yeah.
Because if not the customers, we won't be there.
Yeah.
And I always say, don't forget customers are paying our salaries, right?
Yeah.
We have
Absolutely.
everything we do because customers make that possible. So in fact, all of these wonderful awards that we win, like even the global awards like TM Forum Digital Awards, we won the award last year for customer experience and trust globally. So all of that, I think, is to do with the fact that our customers have given us that power. They make it possible for us to be who we are, to be where we are, to be the market leader, to be the number one company in the country, to be the most valued brand in Sri Lanka, to be acknowledged as for the last 7-8 years, we've been, People Nielsen Awards, we are the most popular telco brand of the year, and we've been winning this award, for like 7-8 years. All of this stuff is only possible because the customers give us that power to do so. And if you let them down, that power can quickly be taken away from you. Right. So we really have to recognize on a day-to-day basis who's boss in the game, right?
Yeah.
They have the power to shift that power elsewhere in no time at all. So if you want to stay there, you may as well focus on the customer.
Yeah.
Because that's where
100% agree, Sandra. And I know we're coming up on our time. So I want to ask you, because I know that next week you're going to be one of over 250 CX and UX professionals who are going to be taking part across Asia in the Next Gen CX Virtual Summit happening June 2nd and 3rd. So what are you going to be sharing at NGCX? And for those who are, have other questions that they want to ask you, tell me a little bit more about what you're going to be talking about.
Yeah, so the key theme in that session is about an experience hub. What does it mean to put up an experience hub? What does it mean to operate a sort of a next generation experience hub? And we really had a lot of fun talking about it when we talked about putting this together with the rest of the speakers, because the speakers who are on the panel, the moderator, we're all friends. We know each other for a long time, from Telstra, from Digi. So it's kind of, it's really fun. It's going to be a load of fun because the conversations are from a very, very practical point of view as to what we've done along this journey, particularly in relation to the pandemic and how we are dealing with all this. But my key speak was on the fact that I decided that I don't want to leave all these different channels in silos. So a couple of years back, we had an initiative as part of the digital transformation program, which had to do with, kind of unifying all of these channels and bringing an omni-channel experience, not just for the customers, but for our employees more, right?
Yeah.
So they don't have to toggle between all kinds of different channels and be challenged. So with that in mind, we've kind of now, the first thing I did was to actually bring the management team also together. So I have what I call the CIC, which is the Customer Interaction Center. And within the Customer Interaction Center, we have a lot of the channels. So other than the physical channel, the web, everything else, which is digital, social, IVR, voice calls, WhatsApp, or the chatbot, all those channels are under one head and one management team. And so they all work together because they understand that for the voice calls to reduce, the volumes to reduce, those need to move into the channels of our choice. The channels of our choice first might be self-help, not essentially where there's still a human being sitting at the back of it, answering, your messages and stuff like that, right? Absolute self-help without human intervention would be ideal for us. And then, of course, if not, it would be the non-voice channels, as we call them, social and digital channels. And then the third option finally being the voice channel or the physical channel, where we have a footprint of about 130 customer experience stores across the country. So we don't want to really inconvenience our customers to have to physically get to these channels, especially now. We also don't want them to have to bother going through an IVR or going to the contact center, speaking to someone. We want to make it really simple and easy for them to be able to do whatever it is that they want to do by themselves, anywhere in the world, any time of day, using some of our digital and social channels. So in particular, the community portal as well. And we've seen our volumes really pick up on the community portal with our chatbot. We even have an NPS in all of these. And our chatbot DR is also doing really well. So DR stands for Dialogue Intelligent Assistant, and not really part of DIA LOG for dialogue. And we have like an NPS which and a completion rate of in the high 80s. And that's already, pretty great. So we're really focused on making sure that the journeys within the DR is, really enhanced, so that a lot of our customers can go there and do their thing and just not have to worry too much about having to talk to a, associate, which probably might be a little waiting time and so on, right? And the associates are working from home for the last 1 year or more. So that's what we are doing. We're focused on making sure that we have one place for customers to go to, and that all our backend systems are integrated in a way that we can bring the intelligence that right to the front, and that the analytics are available. And we have a project that's called Analytics at the Edge, bringing all the information that's required for customers as well as our employees right to their, to their, so that they are in control. The dashboards they want, what they want to see, all of that they have been equipped to make these dashboards, and look at them and to be able to take decisions on what they need. So for instance, our associates can go look at when a customer's calling, look at what the customer's journey has been in the last 3 months, 6 months. So if they just go close to and click on something, they can see, okay, this customer came to us through this channel for this problem, such and such a day, such and such a time, and next on this. And then we have a rating. We'll know that whether he's a high-end user or what kind of a contribution he makes, and how many, the last 3 complaints he had, or which type of channel does he most like to use, and all of that, right? So we've sort of possibly tried to bring everything to make life wonderfully easy for our employees in a way that they are happy to, work in a that's easy for them, and a little effortless. So it also is not just about frictionless customer experience. It's also about frictionless employee experience, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And Sandra, I know we've gone a little bit over our time, so I want to make sure that you're good. Are you going to take one more question? Because it looks like we have a few. Okay, all right. I want to make sure. So Maria asked a great question around what is the future holding for the contact center. She said, at my company, we're considering to minimize phone contact and drive the customer to digital channels. Do you think that's a good idea? So,
okay,
what a loaded question that one is.
Very loaded. So I'd say that you got to put things into context. If you are trying to do this just purely for your benefit, for your business gain, because you can reduce cost, I don't think that's the way around it. Reducing cost has to be a sort of a byproduct. By the way, you do all this, and cost is also, coming down, right? But the way to get about doing it is to try and understand, your customers. How do they work? Say, for instance, in Sri Lanka, we only have 50% smartphone penetration. So 50%, or half of our customers are still using feature phones. Now, if our customers are using feature phones, we can't force them into using an app, for instance, right? That just ain't going to happen. So they are still in the USSD kind of world where, they can go to the IVR, but it's a bit of a struggle. They're in a different place. So we can't sort of simply push digital down everyone's throat. We have to be there for customers to suit their needs. So we still have to make a huge investment and continue to do what we do for our feature phone customer base, which is a 50% at the moment. But yes, for the 50% who are tech savvy or they're already using smartphones, then for them it makes sense. But then again, you need to kind of understand your customer base demographics as well. So if within this 50%, if the demographics are such that you have more senior citizens who may not be so great with or very tech savvy, then you'll have to take a different approach. Then there may be younger generation, and I call them data monsters because they just eat up data, like it's the oxygen, right? They survive. I've seen my friends, teenage kids. Oh my goodness, they feel like they're choking when the data is over.
Oh, hey, I have a 5-year-old, and I think data monster is the phrase I'll appropriate.
I know.
Describe her.
Right. Yeah. So what I've realized is actually there's a new kind of customer. It's not the paying customer that's only important. It's the non-paying little customers who are super important, because parents have no choice. If the kids want their data, they have to get their data, right? So they are the customer, really. The parents are just
Well, you
paying.
say customer with a lowercase c, right?
Yeah, right. So you got to understand the dynamics of who your customer is, and then sort of fix yourself some kind of milestones to take them along the journey, and have a plan on how you're doing that. So definitely, yes, the way to go is to look at going digital for sure. But how soon you do that, or how slowly you do that, depends on the appetite of your customers.
Yeah.
Depends on the country you're in, depends on the demographic of your customer, and so many other reasons. Of course, the company also has to be able to adapt as an organization. The employees need to be able to be mature enough to adapt also on that journey, because you can't really be very analog thinking and arcane and then say, oh, we're doing digital for customers, because it just won't go. It just won't work. It's got to be employees first, and then customers, and then go on that journey together, right? And even taking customers on that journey, it's like you may still need to prod a little, encourage them a little, have more competitions and various things to kind of encourage them to go on the journey. And once you've done a bit of hand holding and they've got going on their way, and then they'll be okay, right? So you have to really watch out for how these dynamics are playing out and changing depending on your country, your products, your services, your customers, your employees, and all of that too. And of course, the reality of it is the budget. Do you have the appetite for funding, and do you have the well laid out program that can take you through this transformation journey to succeed? But if you start by saying, oh, I'm going to embark on a digital customer experience journey because we want to cut off 40% of our cost, and 40% of our cost, majority of it is contact center associates, and we need to lose them, and we're going to force everybody to go and do something digitally, I think that's not the way to go about it, is what I can say.
Yeah. Sandra de Zoysa, CCXP, thank you for sharing your story, your insights, your inspiration to the community, and thanks for just the real world insights that you were able to share today. We hope that you're gonna, if you're a CX professional in Asia, we hope you'll register for the Next Gen CX conference. It's a free registration, great opportunity to network with other CX pros in the region like Sandra. And we also hope that you are going to join CXPA's Asia Pacific Network on cxpa.org. If you're in the region, if you're not in the region, find a network that's close to you. Get a chance to network with amazing global CX pros. So thank you, Sandra, for sharing your story today.
Absolute pleasure, Gabe. And I just want to take a minute to say thank you, because when I wanted to do my CXPA exam way back 7-10 years ago, I can't remember when, I think about 7-8 years ago, I actually had to go take the exam when I visited the UK. I went to London on holiday and I went and took the exam because I couldn't do it here in Sri Lanka or anywhere else in this part of the world. And when I got through, I told myself, I'm just going to make sure that other people are able to do this in my country, because I need to be able to not have everybody else go through the same, difficult times, right? And even when I won the Customer Impact Award, I really didn't believe that CXPA, being a global organization, would actually want to look at little old Sri Lanka and this one individual and give the recognition to someone in Asia, right? I really didn't think it was going to happen. So I have to say I have a lot of respect and regard for how CXPA operates in a way that, you don't really mind how big you are, how small you are. If you're doing great, passionate work equally in any part of the world, you are willing and you are, there to kind of give the encouragement, the recognition, and collaborate and bring it all together purely for the, profession and for people like us. So I really have to, I mean, this is my first opportunity, as it were, to really acknowledge and say thank you. I've sort of met with and worked with Diane as well, just before, I think about 1 or 2 years ago. And she was very, very encouraging when I wanted to have a digital customer experience event in Sri Lanka, which went really fantastically well. So we tied up and, we worked together. So I think it's just wonderful what you guys are doing for all of us in the community. And I actually look to the day when perhaps we will have kind of a program that we can have all of the CXPs around the world, their organizations and the budding, CX professionals take up, like even a master's program is what I've always had in mind. I'm thinking, where can we go from here? Can we get to tying up with a university and get to a master's program and perhaps even a PhD program, right?
Absolutely. I mean, and this is a huge focus for CXPA. In fact, you can visit cxpa.org/higher-ed to see some of the work that we're doing around this topic. And we actually, one of our newest recognized training providers in Brazil offers a CX MBA in CX. So, these inroads are being made. And so, eventually, the next generation of CX professionals, the hope and the goal is that they'll be able to get some formal education, prior to coming into the workforce. So, and absolutely. And so, the feedback's coming in for you. Sandra said, what a valuable, informative session. Great job, Sandra. Well done. I echo these sentiments. You're such an asset to this community. So thank you so much for sharing your story. And it's so great to have you on the program.
It was wonderful, sharing this 1 hour and a bit with all of you. And thank you so much. And, keep up this fantastic, wonderful, great work that you guys are doing from CXPA. It's wonderful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you, Sandra. That is it for this edition of Live with CXPA. We hope you're going to join us next Thursday, June 3rd at 1 p.m. Eastern for a conversation with Autodesk about how they have fostered more effective collaboration between their customer experience and their customer success teams to drive greater business impact. So if you're a B2B CX professional, or you're just wondering, hey, how do I foster more effective collaboration among my internal teams? Hope you'll tune into that broadcast. Until then, please stay safe, and we will see you soon.